Every time that I would get a hit, I would think in my head, what was keeping me through was like, one day I'm going to leave this shitty life. One day I'm going to be out of this one. And I'm not exaggerating, Nicola. This is the first time I've shared this, but it's like every time that I was getting a blow or a punch or what have you, that's what was going through my mind.
Welcome to Great Conversations with Nicola O'Donoghue, the podcast where everyday individuals share their extraordinary stories of struggle, success, and the wisdom they found along the way. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 6 men are in a domestically abusive relationship in the UK. Domestic abuse is threatening, controlling, coercive, and sometimes violent behaviour. The abuse can be psychological, physical, sexual, financial, or emotional. I'm a domestic abuse survivor, and so this topic is extremely close to my heart. I can't speak for all survivors, but I do know that many of us don't feel comfortable sharing our experience because of the shame, judgment, and misunderstanding that surrounds domestic abuse. This is why I was so honoured that Sam Butler agreed to share his story of overcoming domestic abuse. To put your story out into the world is both courageous and empowering, and my conversation with Sam inspired me to open up more about what I experienced. You see, domestic abuse doesn't only happen to certain types of people or relationships or in far-flung corners of the world. It can literally happen to anyone, irrespective of your background or socioeconomic status or means. You know, what's really mad is that the prevalence of domestic abuse is such that you probably know a victim or an abuser in your broader circle. So for those of you who think a loved one may be experiencing domestic abuse, we really hope that this conversation creates a more empathetic, informed, and maybe less judgmental approach to dealing with what is a highly complex, traumatic, and multifaceted topic. Sam and I hope that our stories offer support and validation to anyone who is going through a similar situation. We are evidence that it is possible to leave, it's possible to heal, and it's possible to rebuild your life after domestic abuse. This does not define you or your life. And we want you to know that you're not alone and that there is help available. Thank you. Sam Butler, welcome to Great Conversations. How are you today, my love?
I'm good. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me, Nicola.
Oh, you are very, 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 very welcome. So, as you know, we have a new starting tradition on this podcast, which I'm extremely excited about. So, our previous guest has left you a question. Are you ready? I have to write it down so I remember. Sam, if you could master one skill you do not have right now in an instant, what would it be and why?
I think it would be to be able to read people.
Ooh.
Yeah, instantly. I wish I could just, someone comes in the room. I wish I was able to just read them, what they've been through, and just to be able to help. I really like, one of my biggest things was I wanted to do counselling or something like that. So that is something that I wish I could master now, because in my line of work, it's like you get people come through your door and you're like, they're asking about technical things, and then they start talking about their life, and I just wish I could give them answers or point them in the right direction, but to have the tools to be able to do that. So, that'll be it.
Oh, that is really beautiful. I really love that. Yeah, and
thank you.
You're also talking to like a side of management and leadership, which is the human side, isn't it? As you say, you've got the technical experience, but then how are you dealing with the human?
I've been through some really dark places, and if I had someone that I felt that either looked like me or had gone through some of the things that I've been through and understood me and directed me, well, you're not going through something that's strange, and it's part of life. And I wish I could give that back to someone, or give that to someone. So, and having the tools to do that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be it, Nicola, I think.
And I'd love to know, like, with that insight and wisdom that you've got now, what has been your journey to getting to where you are, and to having that insight?
So I basically grew up really, really too looked after. Is that such a word? As I was cotton wool balls. I don't know what the term was. Like, my mum and dad were there all the time for me. Life, I didn't know life outside the front door, so to speak. Real life, So I just thought everything was rosy. Everyone is lovely, no one's out to get you. You know what I mean? It's like I had I would say a false window to the world. Not going against what my mum and dad had done for me, but they really didn't prepare me for the world, Nicola, really. So I grew up in East London. I was absolutely, I loved school. There was I always went to school. I never missed a day. Like, it just sounded strange, people wanting to bunk off school. Like, why do you want to bunk off school? This is amazing.
You sound like me. I was that, like, nerdy kid that would be at the front door, like, take me to school, Mum, take me to school.
Exactly. I had all my friends there, and yeah, it was just, some would go around the back to have a little smoke of a cigarette, and I'd be like, oh, why? And I was prefects, and I was, do you know what I mean? I was everything. Nicola, I was everything. Like, I was in the steel pan club, I was in a dance club, you name it, I was doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for me, school was amazing, and then I went on to college, and even then, when I went to college, I was like, when I went for my first cider and blackcurrant, I thought, oh my gosh, what's my mum and dad gonna say? So it was like, yeah, that was my upbringing, and I wasn't a rebel. I was not a rebel, but I became a rebel.
Really?
Later on, yeah, it was, and this is where my slippery slope came, because it was, my dad passed away tragically, and that just turned everything upside down, Nicola.
Oh.
I am the eldest. Well, my brother passed away last year, but I was the eldest. So everything fell on me. So it was like, I'm having to do everything. I had to help Mum. Mum was literally comatose. She couldn't do anything. So I had to organise my dad's funeral. I had to, do everything around that.
I think people think that we've got one set way of dealing with grief or navigating grief, and it's not as simple as that, is it? And as you say,
No.
if your mum's struggling, then you had to step in and take over just the doing, which I don't know. I mean, what did that do in terms of your ability to grieve your dad?
I didn't. Nicola, I basically didn't. I did not have time to grieve at all. So after all, like, I think a few months after, this guy comes along, and you're like, oh, this is someone different. He can take me away from all this. Yeah. Took me away into doing something completely different to what I would have done, and it was hard. It was really hard. And the thing was, and even my mum, she saw she saw the change in me. She was like, "This isn't you, Sam. Like the type of person that he is. If I was in a normal state of mind, and I'm saying it as it is, Nicola, if I was in a normal state of mind, I wouldn't have gone for him.
Mm.
I wouldn't. But because I was dealing with grief, I it was an escape, and yeah, it was a mess.
Yeah, well, I mean, so what you're talking about is obviously a really vulnerable time in your life when you've just lost your dad and your whole family are trying to navigate this situation and come to terms with what's happened, and then this
Mm,
guy shows up when you're really vulnerable and then takes you
yeah,
on a journey, like such a it's crazy to think that that was the pivotal moment when your life split off. And so then, if you
yeah,
wouldn't mind, just talk to us about Sam at 21 that's dealing with this. Who do you become? What journey do you go on for that duration? So you got into a relationship with this guy. Is this the guy that
yeah,
you ended up marrying? Like, sort of talk to us
yeah,
about Sam's
yeah.
journey from that point forward.
He was very manipulative, and but because I was like, oh, he's putting all the attention on me. I'm getting all the attention. I thought this was how it was meant to be. Like I'd never had a proper boyfriend. Never. He was my first proper boyfriend because, like I said, I was Miss Goody Two Shoes. He managed to actually move in with me, and it was, and the way that it was, he begged for a key to the house, and I didn't even consult my flatmate. I just gave him the key. Within
Yeah.
5 months, I'd given him a key to move in. What the heck?
But it's such a classic. So I mean, obviously, what you're talking about, and I know, is that your ex is an abuser, and it's
Yeah,
such a and I also my ex is an abuser, hence
yeah,
why we're having this conversation, and
yeah.
it's such a classic tactic of an abusive individual to
Okay.
sniff out somebody who is in a hugely vulnerable state and then use that in order to, as you say, manipulate them. And one of the first cycles of an abusive relationship is this
Uh-huh.
love bombing, is this idealization phase where they just make you. So in my experience, what happened is my ex, he just put me on this pedestal. I was the most amazing woman in the world, who he, within 3 months of meeting me, he was talking about wanting to marry me and, like, give up his whole life and come and follow me. And he was my Prince Charming, and we were going to just have this amazing life together because he just adored me. And it was just
Yeah,
constant adoration from somebody. And it's
yeah,
really difficult not to get swept up in that, because a little bit of like what you're saying, I look back now and I'm just like, what the fuck? It's insane. Like, how was I? And I lost my head. Like, you gave him a key to
yeah,
your house, but like I
yeah.
we lived in different countries, but I was like giving up my career, like, honest to God, the things that I was doing in order to sort of, follow this. I would have followed him to the ends of the earth, because he just
Exactly.
made me feel so invincible and so incredible.
Yeah,
And he spoke to every vulnerability and just desire and need of mine. And and what
yeah,
I've learned now, looking back, is that is a really huge key stage of abuse, is that they build this through love bombing, sort of no respect
yeah.
for your boundaries, talking about marriage, you can do no wrong. But they build that foundation, because when they move on to then the abuse, when they move on to the
Yeah.
devaluation stage, there's something
Uh-huh.
that sort of they can always go back to, because they've managed to, yeah, I guess, so utterly convince you that these are your Prince Charming, and you just
Yeah,
you lose yourself so totally in them, don't you, in a way that's like
absolutely.
mind blowing.
Yeah, and consequently I was with him for 20 odd years.
Wow.
And constantly he would be saying, "You'll never find anyone who loves you as much as I do."
Yes.
Like, and I believed that.
Yep.
I just got swept up in him. I ended up having an argument with my mum over him. So with my mum, with my best friend, just so he basically came in and just divided me away from everyone who was around me.
Yeah.
And they were all saying to me, "Oh, Sam, you have to be careful. This isn't like you." And I'd be like, "No, you don't know what you're talking about. He loves me. What do you know?" And also, and because my mind wasn't in the right place and someone's given me all this attention, bingo, I got hook, line, and sinkered.
I know. I can hear you. I hear you. I was exactly the same, and I wonder, like, what what could somebody have said
Have
back
said,
then? Yeah, that would have helped. That, if anything, that would have made you realize and exit straight away.
yeah. I think, do you know what? I think if someone had said to me, "Sam, let's go out for dinner, and let me just talk about my relationship," then I would have listened to myself. Do you know what I mean? Listen to myself talking to someone else and thinking, are those words really coming out of my
Mm.
mouth? Is this what my life is? But no one ever. My mum came, knocked on the door, barged in the house. "Sam, I'm not happy with you." Like, it was judgmental. It was
Yeah.
that judgy persona that she brought to it. My other friend, she was just, it's all judgment. It was like, so you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being judged. I'm just going to close myself in and stay with this guy because he knows me better.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't judge me,
Yeah. Not
isn't
yet.
it?
Yeah, I
No,
hear
yeah.
that. Yeah, I think like really similar. Like, yeah, I think unfortunately when you love someone and you're concerned about them, your advice and care can come across as judgmental. I think for me as well, what I realized is I just didn't love myself or have any form of self-worth. Like, I
Yes,
hadn't
yes,
seen healthy relationships. I
yeah,
grew up on the toxic Disney fairy tale of Prince
yes,
Charming's going to come. Like,
yeah.
I just recently watched the new Little Mermaid, and it
Oh, I
was,
haven't watched it yet.
oh, Sam, do you know, I mean, it's a phenomenal movie. The way they've made it is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
But the message really just got
Uh-huh.
me because, I grew up on that. And the story is essentially Ariel gives up her voice, sacrifices her family, everything she loves for this guy. Like,
Guy.
it's just that there's a man that's going to come and rescue you. And when he shows up, you have to give up everything that you ever, that is you, in order to be in that
Yeah,
relationship. And I grew up on that. Like,
yeah.
it's, and so like really genuinely had this deep belief and fear that I was going to be left behind, and that
Yeah,
this
yeah,
was what it was all about. That actually, my Prince Charming was going to come, and then when he
yeah.
turned up, and my ex loved pushing that he was my Prince Charming. He was here to save me and give me,
Save me, yeah,
everything I ever wanted. And I ate it up, and I was so scared. Like, for me,
yeah,
I would rather be in a relationship that wasn't great than be on my own. I was so
on your own.
terrified of that. So
Yeah,
terrified. And so I
yeah,
don't think
you're
that
right.
anyone could have said anything to me at that time, because if they had, I didn't love myself enough.
Yeah,
I didn't have
yeah,
enough anchors to be like, I deserve more. I want more. I'm rather be
yeah,
by myself than put up
yeah,
with this. And I didn't. I just didn't
absolutely.
have that.
Yeah, you're so right. And it is so much about loving yourself, being comfortable with yourself. And I really wasn't. I was looking for that validation all the time. And I think it even comes from school, like, "Oh, you're amazing, Sam. You've done this correct. You've done this, and I was always looking for that validation. And he was always, "Oh, Sam, you're the only girl that I want to be with," and blah, blah, blah. But one of the classic things that he had said to me, and I'm like, he said, "Don't look at the way I treat other people. Look at the way how I treat you." So that made me feel him, especially. I'm like, oh, so he's going to treat everyone else like shit, but because it's me, he's going to treat me.
Yeah,
Now, who says that, Nicole?
I know.
If anything, you're going to be looking how they treat other people, because that gives you an idea of how they will treat you. Because
Yeah,
if they've
100%.
got that ability to treat people like shit, yeah,
Yeah.
then they've got that ability to treat you. But I didn't look at it like that. I flipped it, Nicola. I
Yeah.
flipped that.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do, isn't it? That's the sort of MO of an abuser. And was it was it Oprah or Maya Angelou? Maybe it's Maya Angelou that said that people show you who they are within the first like 30 seconds of meeting them. And as you say, it's how they act rather than what they say. My ex was the same. What's so amazing about today is that people talk a lot more about red flags, red flags. But back then, like when I met my ex, and I'm assuming it's similar, what we would now associate as red flags just were not. So like when I met mine, I was not interested at first. So we were living in different countries. I was really focused on my career, like living the single life, high life in London.
Yeah.
And I said to him continuously, no, 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 I am not interested. And he didn't respect my boundaries. And he kept like bombarding me with emails. He even, because we worked in the same company, like took my boss out and was talking to my boss of like getting me to go out with him. And I mean, it was just at every level overstepping my boundaries. Like when I look back now, it was really predatorial behavior in how he
Yeah.
didn't take no for an answer. And he had me in his sights and I was never getting away. But what was really
Yeah.
interesting is that society and the people and the friends around me were like, that must mean he loves you because he's pursuing the girl. And so whilst I also didn't respect my own boundaries and no meant
Yeah.
no, the people around me were also sort of making me
No.
question myself to be like, but this is just, again, blaming Disney and rom-coms. This is the grand gesture of the man when he loves you, he comes after you.
Yeah,
No,
he'll always be after you. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I think nowadays maybe our young men and women are more savvy to that. But back then,
Yeah.
so it was just,
You're so
there was
right.
no getting out of it. Like once he had me in his sights, there was literally no getting out of it for me. Was it the same?
So the first time I met him, I was going into, I got off the bus, was walking along to go into my house, and he was on a motorbike, and that was his path. He was coming past, and he was like, "Oh, yo, yo," like calling me, and I'm like, "Is someone who's calling me?" And it was him. So I just ignored him, Nicola, because I'm like, I'm better than that. Like, why are you shouting at me? I'm walking down the road. Couple of days later, same situation again. I'm going off the bus. He's there. He's coming along his motorbike. He's calling me. And I'm like, what is wrong with this guy? Like, so I stopped just to like see what he wanted. And he's like, oh, what's your name? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. I went on in. Third time, Nicola. The third time the following week, again, same scenario. And then I thought, like you say, Disney, oh, he must really want to speak to me because, he's bam, bam, bam.
I feel as if this is really important to share because also one of the things that I got asked a lot when I came out of my abusive marriage and told people what I'd been living through and shared, they were just like, why did you stay? Like,
Yeah,
how did you end up in there? Why did you put up with the things that you put up with? And I think well, first of all, I think it's really unfair to put that responsibility on a victim.
absolutely.
I wasn't willingly a participant in the abusive relationship. I was actually kept hostage by an abuser. And it's really important for me to share that. But I think like what you said as well, it's not as easy as to just be like, oh, I voluntarily signed up for this. Like they're so masters at how they weave you in and how they pull you in and how they manipulate that once you're there and once you then realize what you're a part of, it becomes very, very difficult to
Yeah,
then unravel your life from that
yeah,
for many, many, many different reasons.
yeah.
And so I'm just really curious. So after you met this guy, he moved in, you then got married and had kids, like where did your life take you from then?
What happened was I then he had this brilliant idea. Why don't we have a child?
Mm.
Okay. We weren't actually married, Nicola. We weren't, I wasn't married to him, but
Why don't we have a child? And in my eyes, I always wanted the Disney marriage, settle down, blah, 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 and then have kids.
Mm.
But I was so swept up because I was so special. I was like, yes, let's have a kid. Had a child, and then he was like, let's leave the country. We moved out to Holland.
Mm.
That was it. No family. No, I didn't know anyone out there. He just had this idea. Let's just go and move out there. We did this, and then I was just by myself, Nicola.
Yeah.
It was perfect for him, absolutely perfect for him. And this is when the abuse really kicked in, like the physical abuse. Before it was the mental abuse, now it was the physical abuse, because I I looked around me and I was like, I don't want this. This isn't what I want in my life. Bam. That's when he started hitting me,
Mm.
because I wanted to get away. And
Yeah.
I would break up his whole perfect world, so to speak.
Mm.
And then it
Yeah.
just continued. Then I had a second, then I had a third, and then I had a fourth. I was cool.
When you think about that time of your life, like, what do you think is important for people to know?
That there is never a wrong. If you find yourself in a situation where you are in an abusive relationship, regardless of children or not, there is never a wrong or right time to get out of it, or there's never
Mm.
a wrong time to get out of it. If you feel that you can't do it, get out. I mean, I'm going to say it now. My son, who is an adult now, said to me, Mum, you should have just left. You should have just. But as a mother, you're like, I've got my children. They need a mother and a father. They
Yeah.
need that stereotypical mother and father, whether it's a toxic relationship or not. That was my idea. Like, I have to stay in this until they
Mm.
get of age. I have to see this through.
Yeah.
For me, looking back, I don't think I should have stayed,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
for me, it had ripple effects on how my children see a relationship. But luckily, and I say luckily, with the girls, they have all they saw they saw everything. All the children saw everything, but they are of the mindset of, this is not how it should be. They knew this
Yeah.
isn't how it should be. My only worry is with my boys. They're not abusive, but the fact that they've seen that was their role model, that worries me.
Yeah.
That does worry me.
Yeah. I was going to ask you actually, like, how has what you lived through affected you? And
Yeah.
you've spoken about it a little bit, but how has it affected you?
It made me it made me keep closed in. I never shared anything about any of this to anyone outside the family, not even with the family. I was a very private person. Before I would be, everyone knew Sam. Sam was life is great, I'm happy, and, I'll be going there, I'll be traveling, what have you. Once I got into that relationship, Nicola, it was shut down. I was not myself.
Mm.
Now, 6 years have gone since I left, and I'm just becoming to be that vision of how I used to be, you
Yeah.
know. But it's taken a lot of work on myself to get myself back.
Yeah.
It is hard work. It's still ongoing. It's hard.
I was going to ask you, like, what helped you leave? So talk to me about how you left. Like, what was it and like, how did you get out? And then what has helped you recover?
recover. So my excuse me, my son had a child, and I was looking around how we were living, and the dad, and how, and my son's father, and how he was treating me, and I was thinking, I don't want my grandson to be witnessing any of this. The way that he would talk to me, the way he would, it was just so toxic. And I thought, no, this has got to stop. And I have to be that person, that bigger person, to just walk away from this and show my boys in particular that this is not how you treat a woman. A woman will not stay with you if you treat her like this. Do you know what I mean, Nicola? It's like, no, I had to put a stop to it. I had to. And I think it was, I don't, this might sound strange, but I don't know whether I manifested my leaving
Yeah.
because I laugh about it now, but every time that I would get a hit, I would think in my head, what was keeping me free was like, one day I'm going to leave this shitty life. One day I'm going to be out of this one. And I'm not exaggerating, Nicola. This is the first time I've shared this, but it's like every time that I was getting a blow or a punch or what have you, that's what was going through my mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to leave this. I'm going to be out of this. One day I will be out of this. And then the day came and I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I had waited until my last child was 18. He went off to uni, and I did him a birthday cake. And I was like, this birthday cake will be the last, in my head, this birthday cake will be the last birthday cake I do in this house with this man. And it was. It was, Nicola. It was.
What helped you leave? Like, how did you get out?
I was putting it off, putting it off. I was, I remember it vividly. It was autumn, and I said to my daughter, I said, I'm going to give them one more Christmas, and then we're moving out. Then I was hanging out one morning. I was hanging out clothes on the line because I love to. I don't know. It's just something with me. I just love to hang clothes on the line, get the fresh air, blah, blah, blah. And he came out and he started making this argument, and he kept pushing my chest like that. And I can't remember what the argument was about. And then I was like, in my head, I was like, no, why am I waiting till Christmas? What am I waiting for? And that's still I don't know, someone please explain it to me. I don't know why, but I was still giving more time. And then the next day I said to my daughter, I said, no, let's go and look for somewhere now. Now, I need to get out now. And then within 3 days, we pretended we were going out shopping. Yeah. And the thing is, he was jealous of the relationship that I had with my daughter. It was just so bizarre, Nicola. So bizarre. Yeah. So within 3 days, myself and my daughter, we found somewhere. I had a good friend at work. I had three good friends, 3 really close friends that I finally opened up with. And I think that is the key, is to share. Don't feel that you have to hold it all to yourself. You know, no one's going to judge. Well, people might judge you, but it's finding the people that are close to you that aren't going to judge you. Yeah. And I found some amazing people at my last workplace. And one of them actually became my guarantor for the flat, because whilst I was with him, I'd racked up so much debt, Nicola. How is that? Yeah. So much debt. No one wanted to give me anything. But this colleague, she was like, Sam, I'll be your guarantor. And she became my guarantor. Bang. And then another close colleague of mine, he he came, and my daughter pretended she had found, well, she had found somewhere to live. So she was moving her stuff out. And then what I did was I put a little bit of my stuff in her stuff each time she was taking the things from the house. And then on the very last morning I was due to go to work, I have crystals. I had crystals in my room, and he knew that these mean so much to me. This was part of my journey of bringing back the me, of finding myself, getting more strength and what have you. So my strength was in my crystals. It's a bit woohoo, but that's what I. So on that last morning, I took my crystals and I left a few clothes in my room that, just to make it out that I haven't totally gone, but I left a few clothes. Took my crystals, went to work, spoke to my manager and told them what I'd done. And she was so supportive, and she didn't judge me again. Do you know what I mean? It's that whole judgment thing. And then in the evening, I didn't go back to the house. And then he messaged, "Where are you? Where are you?" And then I just blocked the phone, and then that was it. And it was hard. We came to a place, we had nothing. We had no furniture. If you see my flat now, I'm so proud. When friends come round, I'm like, we came here and we had nothing. And now, when people come in, they go to us like, this is such a homely, spiritual, so...
Sam, it is mad. It is mad because I'm sitting here not only really grateful and in awe of just what you're sharing, also like your journey is so disturbingly similar to my own. Like obviously like these abusive men just have a really similar MO. Like with mine, I he moved me to South Africa, and so I gave up my friends and family. So like what you're talking about, the classic tactic of isolating you from friends and family, so you don't have people that can keep you grounded and who know where you are. And my ex was very psychologically abusive, so much devaluing, putting me down. But outside I was this perfect, amazing, capable woman who he adored, but inside the house I wasn't. Inside the house I couldn't do anything right. I wasn't bringing in enough money. Anything that I cooked wasn't right. I wasn't allowed to have any of my things in the house or pictures of my family around me. And the sort of level of control and devaluation, the gaslighting was next level. And I think the gaslighting, I think, often is quite a misunderstood term. So it's not about telling somebody that it didn't happen. So oftentimes things would happen and then he'd be like, that's wrong. Like my interpretation of a situation or my emotional reaction was always wrong. It wasn't right. It wasn't how it happened. But gaslighting is when they take it that step further and then they put it back on you. That continuous, like getting me to doubt not only my experience, but then also to have then the issue thrust at my door. I'm the problem.
Yes.
I'm the one with the issue.
Absolutely.
And living through that constant, not knowing who was going to walk through the door. So constantly being on eggshells. Is he going to shit all over me today and it'd be really stressful? Or am I going to have a reprieve? But I tried to leave him so many times. Initially, when I tried to leave, it was the emotional manipulation that pulled me back. There was obviously a lot of fear because, a little bit like you, I'd moved my life to a whole new country. I had, I'd invested everything in him in this relationship, and there was definitely a bit of pride. But then over the years, the ante started to increase. So I had a lot of we had a few incidences in South Africa that was like a threat to life, both mine and his. And it's that fear. Like I think when people ask the questions of why did you stay, you've got to understand that context within which you're living. And for me personally, and what I know now coming out, is this trauma bond. But through his actions, he had eroded even the small sense of self that I had.
Yes.
So I didn't have the faith or the trust and the belief in myself. I wasn't capable. I literally wasn't capable of it. Although that door was not locked, I was not capable of walking through it, because through his threats, his devaluation, his isolation, his puts downs, he'd got me to such a state that I wasn't myself. But what I find really interesting is a little bit of what I heard in your story as well, is no matter how hard he tried, he didn't break my spirit. And it is amazing, isn't it, how despite all of that, there's a spark or something that just keeps you biding your time, moving forward, because you know.
I totally just echo everything you've just said. Everything you've just said, and it's the whole realization that there is, no matter how much we get devalued and pulled apart, there is a little bit. As long as there's a little bit there, you can build on that. You can.
Absolutely.
And the thing that helped me build was, okay, I had my daughter's little voice in my head, but also I had my dad who passed away. When I would think about him and think, this is not what, because when my dad came to this country, 2 weeks on a boat to get to England. Then it was the time of, there was no jobs for black people. He would walk door to door looking for work. He told me the times there was 4 of them in a bed sharing 4 different people, 4 guys all sleeping in the same bed, shift work, having to put 50 pence in and also that I was like, my dad, bless his soul, did not go through that for his daughter to end like this. This is just, this is not my story. This is not my family's story. Do you know what I mean, Nicola? This cannot end here. And I just, at the end, I bit the bullet, came away, and I played Aretha Franklin, bless her soul, non-stop in an empty flat for how long? She is what got Aretha.
So what got me through was Destiny's Child Survivor, Christina Aguilera Fighter, like literally on play, like nonstop. My neighbours must have hated me.
Yeah, same here.
But I'm just really curious, like, what are some of the things that helped you heal? Because you mentioned it before, but like, I think that's one of the things that I've really struggled with.
Well, for me, I discovered yoga, and also my work, because I had to go to work. There was none, and luckily I couldn't work from home. So my work was my refuge. I say this now. But even then, Nicola, you go to work and everyone thinks, oh, Sam's a happy go, because we have that facade. We build that facade that, everything's fine, nothing's going on in my life, blah, blah. And that's what makes it hard to open up to people, because they're like, this is really happening in your life, Sam?
Yeah. And it's somehow like exactly, I was going to say, it's somehow like a backhanded compliment, isn't it? It's like, oh my God, someone like you is a victim of domestic abuse. And you're like, yeah, it's not, what do you think a domestic abuse survivor looks like? Just because I'm educated and I've got my own opinion and I've got a career, does that mean that I can't be abused by somebody? It's just, I don't know why we've got this model of a broken, like, wounded bird. Yeah.
You're a broken woman or man if you're abused or not. No, if anything, we're very, and I'm going to say this, we're very good actors and actresses. We are.
Well, because I was totally disassociated for all that part of my life. Like, I think, again, when people say, why did you stay? And one of the multifaceted reasons is that I wasn't conscious of it from like, vaguely. And yes, I'd pick up on, and I'd know what was happening and what he was saying to me, but I hadn't labeled it as I'm a victim of domestic abuse. I hadn't labeled it as such because cognitively I couldn't. And it's so crazy because now, having a lot of what I've done, I've read a lot about trauma. I threw
Yeah.
myself into therapy, and there's an amazing book, Your Body Keeps the Score, by Bessel von Klock, I think his name is. And it's so interesting what he talks about of people with you, like when you're in such a traumatic, abusive environment, the parts of your brain that are responsible for language actually go offline. So it's why a lot of victims of sexual abuse, domestic abuse, can't actually, war, really struggle to articulate what happened to them, because they're just surviving. Their brain literally shuts down and it goes into survival mode. So it's just getting you through day to day.
Yeah.
So even now, there's so much of that time in my life that I don't remember and that I can't talk about. Or when people will say, or like my sister will say something about something that I did, and I'm just like, wow, that just, I can't believe that was me. Like, it's so bizarre for me now to look back over that time and be like, wow, geez, like, who was that?
It is actually mind blowing. And I think that, and I can tell, I'm just thinking also as you're talking, it's like, the other reason why I left Nicola and I felt I needed to leave eventually was because my mum and dad they had an abusive relationship. So I saw, but then they resolved it. So maybe I was at that point thinking, halfway through, I was thinking, well, if my mum and dad got through their differences, maybe I will with this guy. No, no, that is such the wrong way to look at it.
And that's what's really difficult, isn't it? Because you get, like, again, similar to me, like when some things had happened and I would talk to family about it, and like, aunts and stuff, and try and get their advice. And with the best will in the world, they'd be like, all relationships are hard work. You've got to compromise. Like, that's part of being in a relationship. Like, don't give up. It's just sort of, it's part and parcel. So again, like, society. And I think now that the narrative's gone the other way, where there's stuff of you give up, Gen Zs give up too easily and you're too ready to walk away. And I feel like it's just a really grey area because, as you say, sometimes there's this, misguided belief that it will get better. Like, he was constantly, my ex, like, I'm stressed. And, it was always, I'm going to be better. I know, like, I know I'm so bad. I'll try to be better. I'm just really stressed, or this is just happening, or bear with me, or, all of that crap. We'll go to therapy together, and nothing changes because they can't. But it is, as you say, it's so toxic to tell people to stay and to ride it out when actually you don't know the full story and the full extent of what's going on. I mean, and obviously it's taken hard work and compassion and patience, but like, here in the life that you're living now, what is different for you? Like, how are you now? What Sam is here now, and what are the things you do to, like, keep you grounded in that?
So I think for me, it was important to have that time to find myself. And I don't even think I knew myself I definitely didn't know myself when I got into a relationship with my ex. And that was the learning period that I needed. I needed this learning period now, back then, if you get what I mean. So I've had 6 years to know what I want, who I am, and what I want.
And what have you discovered?
So I once I once and this is it, when I met my partner that I'm with now, it was a bit like I was like, I'm not sure, like I was in with a little toe, not a big toe. I had to put a little toe in, and I ended up saying to him, I was like, I don't want anyone to be dependent on me. I don't want anyone to be. I don't want to feel that I need to be there for someone, if you get what I mean. I don't want to, because I've always had to be there for people. And I just wanted someone they had their own shit together and I've got my own shit together and we're coming together to make a whole. Not that's what I wanted.
And the confidence with which you say that and the power in your words is, it's giving me goosebumps. It's freaking phenomenal. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you. So
it's taken 6 years, it can take 2 years, 6 whatever. But all I just want to put out there is never, I always say this, never say never. And if you know what you want and you're strong in yourself, it's all about, and I'm still building on myself. I still read all the books, all the self-help books. I love my Vex King, as you know, and I love, I'm always listening to podcasts and just trying to, make myself strong mentally and physically. And I'm back in the gym and, it's just,
Yeah, it's like, and it totally, it's mind blowing how similar our journeys are and continue to be. I mean, it's like, exactly, it's about, I hear you, it's coming home to yourself. It's actually reconnecting with who you are. And there's so much power in that when we know ourselves fully and wholly. When for me, it was, I've spoken about this often, but it's just accepting and loving myself, letting go of the masks and the things that didn't serve me. And then honoring that. And I think what you're talking to now with your partner is the authenticity that shows up in relationships. So I hadn't realized how inauthentic my previous relationships were, because I wasn't fully showing up as myself, because I wasn't whole and I didn't know myself, and I certainly didn't love and respect myself. Now I do. And every relationship is benefiting from that injection of authenticity,
absolutely.
not just my romantic relationships.
Work,
and
life.
Yeah, exactly. It's so phenomenal. And that's why, like, I think, growing up, it was always, oh, your better half or meet your other half. And I love what you're saying. It's bullshit. Make yourself whole and find someone else who's whole. Like, literally, can we get that made into a Hallmark card? Like, mic drop, job done. But that's what you need. It is. It is. Like, it's accepting responsibility, coming back to yourself, finding that love and that validation internally rather than looking for somebody else with man, woman, or there. It is so powerful.
Absolutely.
So listen, we've got a closing tradition on this podcast. I ask all my guests, what is something that other people value that you don't?
Money. I don't value it in the sense of having it. I value it in the sense of what it can do for me, and in the sense of what I can do and help others. So the physical, having that commodity of money, is not something that I value. But what I can do with it is another level. So, that would be it.
I hear you.
That would be
I hear you. Sam, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you to the amazing individuals who make Great Conversations possible. My editor, Stian Moritz, musician Jamie Jenkin, and our incredible guests for their openness. Our website, integrate.net, will be launching in September with loads of other exciting resources. In the meantime, feel free to click the links below for more episodes of Great Conversations. Sending you so much love. Bye for now.